Hey guys, MD Prepper here, talking more about low-cost blades for SHTF use. We're continuing our discussion on smaller size blades, and we're talking about the lower cost, smaller blades from Cold Steel. There are 4 of them here on the table, including the Canadian belt knife, the Roach belly, the Fen Bear, and the Pendleton Lite Hunter. We're going to talk about all these, but let's talk about the overall statistics of these. All of them are stainless steel, 4116 Krupp stainless. So, love or hate stainless, they're all stainless. They're going to hold up well overall for general use. Blade length, about 4 inches or so. Some are a little less, some are a little more. I'm not going to go into the specifics of these. You can check my old videos or check other videos out there. So, call them 4 inches across the board, give or take. All are about the same weight, anywhere between 2.6 and 2.8 ounces overall. So, very lightweight, very easy to carry in your pack, on your belt, etc. Very lightweight, you're not going to notice they're there. All of these also have polypropylene grips, various styles. We're going to talk about that here shortly. So polypropylene, maybe not the best grips overall for actual grip and retention, but highly durable, going to stand up to the weather and the elements just fine. All of these blades have about a 1/3 tang on them, so they come down to roughly about there, about equivalent to your Mora blades. And all of these are hollow ground. Now, hollow grinds, very sharp, razor sharp blades, quite literally. This is the style grind you're going to find on a straight razor for shaving and all of that. Probably not going to use your standard sharpening techniques for a hollow grind overall, as these are a little bit more brittle overall. Not quite as strong as a Scandi grind or convex, etc. Most of these are generally best sharpened with stropping. So if you've got a leather belt on your waist and pull that off and use the rough side of it, you can sharpen this thing up to get a keener edge on it fairly quickly. I'm not talking about sharpening too much, but just so you know, the hollow ground is nice, but it has some limitations. So, moving along, let's talk about these for SHTF. First of all, price. They're all about $13 to $15 or $16. So, let's call them each 15 bucks, give or take. Depends on the blade, but they're all about the same. General price and all that. The blade styles. Let's start out over here with the Canadian belt knife. I don't like this one very much for SHTF survival. This is not my first choice. I don't like the style of the blade. It's got a good belly on it. It's thin here at the base. Not my favorite. This is fine. This would be good for skinning. This would be good for processing game and squirrels and stuff like that, but just not my favorite. It fits the hand fairly well, a little slimmer grip, a little hold back here for a lanyard. Nothing wrong with that, but I just worry about this slipping up on my hand and slicing the heck out of myself. I like this blade, I haven't found it to be quite the blade as the rest of the options. So the Canadian belt knife, it's okay if that's what you want, nothing wrong with it, but for the price point, I think there's better options. So moving along, the Roach belly. Definitely the most aggressive looking of the blades, named hopefully or likely after the roach fish, not the cockroach. Nice big belly to it, nice sharp point. Kind of a artificial choil here, so your hand's not going to slip on this blade real badly. Got some wood-like grain texture on this. Hopefully you can see that. So that's decent enough. Decent and rounded here. Again, holding back for a lanyard. I like this one just fine. Gonna keep that one out. The Fen Bear. Obviously looks like a Puka or a Scandinavian style blade. Does not have a Scandi grind on it like we talked about, but gee, it certainly does look like one. Let's compare this to the Mora. Very similar. Very similar indeed, but a different grind overall. Now this one has no guard on it. That bothers me a little bit for defensive uses and tactical uses, whatnot. These are great blades. These hold up for bushcraft and all that. These are going to be good knives. One thing I do like about this, I like the little ribbed grip on it there. Hopefully you can see that. The camera will focus. But what I really like is the diamond-shaped grip on it. I like that diamond. That's the best I can call that. It may be called something else, but looked kind of like a baseball diamond to me. So anyway, This fits the hand extremely well. Very comfortable blade to grab and hold and use for finer work, for batoning, etc. And you can baton with this just fine. Nothing wrong with this knife at all. A lot of great reviews out there if you check around. But again, I prefer Scandi grind. Now finally, probably the best knife out of this is the Pendleton Lite Hunter. This got one of the best reviews from Field and Stream out there for cost effectiveness and all of that. This is a fantastic general purpose knife for out in the field, especially when you're out in the woods and all of that. This is going to get the job done no matter what you need to do. You can do finer work with it, you can baton with it. You got some decent grips here with some decent little patterning on it, and you got a little place right here for your hand if you're going to baton down on it and all that to grip very firmly. A little choil here or guard, your hand's not going to slip up on this blade too easily. So nice benefit there. Again, I've talked about the Pucos before, the Scandinavian style blades. I'm going to take this one out of the rotation because my favorite two are both of these, the Roach Belly and the Pendleton Lite Hunter. A little bit different purposes and uses, but whichever one you want is going to be fine. For general use, this one, the Lite Hunter. Definitely the Lite Hunter for general overall use for whatever you're going to need to do with it. This is going to be better overall. Now, go and jump to tactical uses. For slashing and cutting, this is the way to go. Got some good jimping on the back side of it if you need to use some finer work. But if I really had to slash with something this cheap of a blade, it's a better slasher than the Moras, the J. Martinis, or the rest of this smaller, cheaper cold steel line. So for defensive use, this is a lot meaner looking blade, as you can obviously see. I use one of these in the kitchen all the time. I keep this around for slicing up meat and veggies and just all sorts of things, just because I like using it, and I love this knife. Absolutely do. Great blade overall. I like it, but honestly, if I had to pick one overall, I'd probably still go for the Pendleton Lite Hunter. They also offer these in higher end lines, options in the Pendleton line. Look those up. But we're talking about the low cost ones for 15 bucks or so. That's the purpose of this video. If I had to pick one, this one. Not as good for defense, but it's got a little bit more belly on it, obviously, than the Mora line. So you can slash with this a little bit better. I'd say the blade style on this, maybe not the grind, but the blade itself is a better general purpose. Probably not quite as good for woodworking and all that, but hey, whatever you need. I just talked about bushcraft uses, so I'm not going to talk about that further. Again, the Scandi grind on the Mora rather, is probably a better option overall. But if you're in suburbia or in an urban environment, these are probably going to be a little better overall, I would say, for general use. If I lived in New York City, am I going to be doing that much woodworking and bushcraft? Probably not. Slashing and keeping bad guys and goblins off me? Yeah, probably. For low cost, 15 bucks, no problems there. For defensive tactical uses, like I said, this one's probably going to reign supreme. This one's a decent second, and I really would not consider this one as the best option because your hand's going to slip up on it. If you're going to have to stab somebody, and this is primarily a thrusting blade for defense, got decent amount of slashing use there, but primarily a thrusting style blade. And this one is slashing almost entirely, but I just worry about my hand slipping up on it. So anyway, the sheaths, they're all absolutely the same. Basic Cordura, nothing much to talk about. Not bad sheaths, just cheap. Belt loop only, so not so easy to attach to molly webbing or concealed carry, or putting wherever you need it, other than directly in a pack or on your belt. Not wrong, not bad, nothing like that, but just basic friction retention there. Just not much to talk about, frankly. Decent, but cheap, inexpensive. Nothing wrong there. So again, cold steel line, nothing wrong with them. Not a bad line of blades. Probably for bushcraft nowhere near as good as the Moras or the J. Martinis, but it's just a different option. Love cold steel. Like the rest of the cold steel line, these come razor sharp. Probably not as easy to sharpen up in the field as the Scandi grinds, but decent enough. If you want something else, if you love your cold steel lines, nothing wrong with these blades. These will serve you well. As I said before, for rural woods use, maybe not my favorite. For suburban or urban use, these are fine. Great blades to have around for general purpose. Going to serve you well. Again, hollow ground versus Scandi grind. That's the big pick. If you like hollow ground, go for these. If you like quick and easy to sharpen, probably go for the Scandi grind out in the woods and such. So there we go. Cold Steel, lower price line here, 15 bucks a piece. They're all great. I like them. Nothing wrong with them. Just personal preference. I like the Morris better. MD Prepper out.